Hey guys, thought I'd do a bit of a reading, play with some cards, and have a chat. There's some stuff that I've been thinking heaps about lately, like the programming that it's been like instilled within us for forever, and all the different kind of methods and that have just repeated over and over and over throughout time, and especially in like religion, instilling fear and shame and guilt, like this whole fear of God, putting the fear of God into you and topping it off with a healthy dose of guilt, and then really shaming you for having desires. Or what I was really kind of playing with the idea was the whole, it really kind of goes back to being shamed for being an animal, really. As like at some point we try to forget that we're animals, that we have natural animalistic instincts and desires and urges, like, and it's like we're kind of afraid of that, so afraid of the fact that we're an animal, a mammal. We've put all this stuff over the top of it in order to convince ourselves or deny that aspect of ourselves, shame it, deny it, bury it. And why? Primal urges, primal instincts. Because like that is our sacral, our root and our sacral and our solar plexus type area that we're like denying this whole aspect of self. And I think that's been used to control us. Like if we're shamed and guilt-ridden and denying that aspect of ourselves for all the many reasons that have gone on in history, then we can't access our true raw animal primal power, our primal power. And we need to access that in order to access Prime Creator, in order to access our full capabilities. And this animal has some amazing capabilities. But yeah, like I said, if we're denying access to that, we can't access our true abilities. And I think, that's kind of what's been used against us in a lot of areas. We've got Isis coming out, reclaiming magic, call back your power and what is rightfully yours. Yeah. So kind of, I guess I wanted to like talk about it a little bit in order to get everyone to have a think about how it is actually impacting your life, and have a look at the big picture and and see, you know, take a step back and really have a look of the like insidious nature of the manipulation that is going on, the you know, the control dynamics, and the even, you know, even if you don't want to go there, go to the place where you ask yourself, like, am I ashamed of my natural animal urges? Am I ashamed of my body? Am I ashamed of all the bodily functions? You know, what voices pop into your head? You know, we're still extremely sexually repressed, even in the freest areas of the world. There is still a lot of repression and toxicity around sexuality and sexual expression, and, you know, what's right, what's wrong, what's bad, what's good. You know, I think it's a big thing that we really, you know, personally having a bit of an assessment on how we look at that. And so many people are fear controls people's lives and freedom of self-expression, and, you know, following their dreams. Fear absolutely rules people, right? Even and the fear is really it gets into the nooks and crannies, right? You can say, I'm not scared, I don't have any fear, but, you know, you're so used to it. We're all so used to it. We think it is normal, but, you know, it's not. And you don't really truly think about it until you start gaining little freedoms back for yourself, and then you kind of have a closer look on, like, geez, you know, like, have we as a species changed that much in the last 2,000 years? And, you know, however, I say 2,000 years because I've been thinking a fair bit about Jesus and the religion side of things. We've got Kuan Yin, enlightened action, choose compassion, move forward with grace. Lady Nada, expanded heart, openness, liberation, let yourself love and be loved. And Jesus, acts of service, when you serve, the universe serves you. Paul the Venetian, gifted one, revealing hidden talents, opportunities to shine. Lady Portia, overcoming limitations, karmic release, let go of the need to be right. Kuthumi, initiatory experience, your current situation is initiating your gifts. Yeah, so gifts, like I was saying, like, we really need the self-sovereignty, the full access to your full self. No fear. Fully pure, true self-expression is freedom, right? Freedom of self, and that's when you get access to all your energy, and that's when you become, you know, next level you, right? And that's when these gifts come in. That's when the enlightenment happens. That's when your personal unique set of gifts and talents truly you truly get access to them. So breaking down this fear and, you know, all the processes, the shit that goes along with all the methods of control and fear and manipulation and power dynamics and blah blah blah, everything that's not you, which you've taken on board. But, you know, it's like little, all those, like imagine you being born and then you've just had mud thrown on you your whole life, and you've got all these layers of caked mud that's not you. But, you know, all those layers of caked mud is impeding you to see the world for what it is, to feel the world for what it is. You've got you've got this like barrier between you and the real world, and you being able to feel the real you. Other people seeing the real you, because you're just like a lump of covered in shit goo, like mud. It's not the real you. And we've got to like wash all this stuff off to be able to take a look in the mirror and truly see what's underneath without anyone else's mud. You know what I mean? Like, we really need to look at how we truly feel, because we certainly should not be ashamed to be alive, to have a body, to have bodily reactions, to have bodily functions. We shouldn't be guilted, you know, we shouldn't feel guilty for wanting to lead our self-sovereign lifestyle, like life. You know, it's our life. We should be able to live it free of anyone else telling us how to be us. So we need to wash all that off. Yeah. So getting back to what I was kind of thinking about with Jesus, because it's kind of a really good example, like, of the methods that have been used to really twist our minds over 1,000, 2,000 years, like for a really long time. So it has been that embedded that people think it's kind of normal. Well, really, inside we know that it's not, because everyone's so depressed and angry, and, our bodies are telling us that it's not right, but it's just like everywhere we look. So we're just like, keep being depressed for the rest of our lives and keep doing it the way everyone has always told us to do it. Or, you start thinking about it and breaking out of that cycle and cleaning off the mud and really having a look and getting onto the self-sovereign, authentic kind of lifestyle, your true path. And that's what it's all about. It's about you finding the true you, the beautiful you, and you being proud of you, and following your true passions and awakening the beast within you, and exploring the you and activating your extrasensory gifts and abilities, like next level animal human. And there's some great stuff to be accessed when you awaken these aspects of self. So some examples with the whole religious thing, so I was thinking, like, how it's like the shock factor, how the news goes over the top with shock factor, which is traumatic to the senses. So the church does this, right? I was kind of thinking of, like, in all the churches everywhere, like Jesus. Oh, that's why. Also, it's funny because I've been thinking about it, and then I watched that Knives Out movie that's just come out. It's kind of got the religious priest vibe going on. Anyway, which is kind of funny because yeah, the detective really lets loose on the church. Anyway, yeah, so I was thinking, like, I was picturing the church, and every church has Jesus on a cross, fucking blood coming out, wounds all over him. It's a traumatic, the image of Christ on the cross is like a manipulative tool to impact our senses, to shock. Because why would they use that image and repeat it over and over and over again? Why? So the reason why is for shock factor, and for like guilt, to make people feel bad when they go to the church. You kind of see what I'm getting at. If I knew some more psychological terms, there'd be a word for what this method of control manipulation is, when you use this kind of image to make the audience have a reaction. So they use this, in religion, they use the whole Jesus died for you. Jesus died for your sins. So that's pretty much saying that you are a sinner, like you're bad, and Jesus died for you, so it's your fault that Jesus died, and you are bad no matter what. You walk in and you're already doomed, like damned, right? And then you've got this image and their message saying, Jesus died for you because you're a fucking sinner. So like that's one like big one. So there's guilt, shame, because you immediately feel like shameful because you must be bad, and I'm sorry, Jesus, that you died for me, and because I'm a bad person. Like, this is the message and the manipulation tactics like that are just embedded, and they embed it in small children. Like, it's traumatic for young children to be told they're going to hell, and so that's put into young minds. How toxic is that? So there's that whole thing, right? Like, they don't, very rarely you see a beautiful picture of Jesus and messages of what really he was talking about. It's all about how bad you are, how you should do what we say, give us money, and continually feel bad, and also be scared of God's wrath. So immediately fear is instilled, guilt and shame, and that whole thing of the having the priest up there and they're lecturing you. So then there's this authoritative thing, like you're less than, and they have all the power, and it's effectively very cult tactics, right? You know, brainwashing. And I was thinking about some other tactics that they use, right? So there is Jesus all bloodied and died for us because we're sinners, and then you know, there's the Virgin Mary, Jesus' mother, who no woman can measure up to, that no man could be good enough for. So you've got this image of the woman, the Virgin Mary, that had Jesus, the Son of God. You know, pretty much like, you know, never been touched by a man, and had Jesus, and, you know, chosen by God, and just a picture of absolute perfection, like she couldn't do anything wrong, like, you know. And then there is Mary Magdalene, who, you know, they said was a whore, who got into, like, ruin Jesus or something. You know, I don't know everything, you know, I haven't read the Bible or anything, but I'm going off the general vibe of the whole thing, right? So you've got two women with the same name. One is his angelic fucking mother, who didn't even have sex to have him. And then there's his partner, who was a whore, also named Mary, who led him astray. And so imagine a man going into the church, you know, this is, you know, I'm kind of thinking back in the day, right? You've got two women named Mary. One's a whore and one's a virgin mother. So you immediately, this, you know, the men, the boys going to church or whatever, you've got two options. There's the Virgin Mother, which you feel bad because you're not ever going to be good enough for this woman, and her son died for you because you're bad. So there's this immediate guilt and shame for the mother figure, that the mother thinks that you're bad. And then there is Mary Magdalene, who, you know, was called a whore and everything. So it's like, you're not good enough for the Virgin Mary, and every other woman is a whore who's going to lead you astray. So then that's instilling anger. So there's guilt and shame with one Mary, and anger and resentment with the other Mary. Because, like, they pretty much only gave, like, two options. Like, who are they blaming? They're blaming you for being a sinner, why Jesus died, and they're blaming Mary Magdalene. So they're putting men against themselves, and they're putting men against the woman. So the man's being shamed all round, and provided a source for his anger, resentment, and disgust centered at Mary Magdalene. And pretty much only a virgin is a good woman. So as soon as you have sex with a woman, she becomes a whore. So then you've got this resentment and hatred and directed at all other women. And I was thinking, and then there's the women coming to church, and they have got, obviously Jesus dying for your sins, so you feel bad. And then you've got two options of women. You've got the Virgin Mary, who you'll never live up to. So you immediately feel shameful and guilt-ridden, ashamed of your, probably non-virgin status, and whatever. You're certainly not going to live up to that, symbol. And also, you're pretty much in front of everyone. There'll be this aspect that that you were being called a whore, because you are, the only other option is Jesus' partner, effectively, that's the way the story goes, has been called a whore and leading him astray. So pretty much every woman in that church is feeling like, well, I'm not the Virgin Mother. I'm lumped in the basket of what the church is calling Mary a whore and leading the men astray. So I'm putting myself in this situation, like back in the day, and they're really hammering this kind of stuff home into everyone. And that's really fucked. That's fucking with every aspect of our human nature. It's making men feel unworthy, ashamed, guilt-ridden, and not like women, being actually really messed up in the head about the two Marys. One's a mother and one's a whore, and do I idolize a woman, or do I resent and hate a woman? If a woman has sex, they're evil. So that's really going to fuck with guys' heads, right? And make them extremely ashamed and guilt-ridden for their desires. So that's completely doing a number on them, right? And the same with the women. They're completely they've got nowhere to go. They've pretty much had every angle directed at them, that they should be ashamed of themselves unless you're the Virgin Mother, Virgin Mary. You're a whore, and you should be ashamed of yourself. You're going to hell. And then you're also realizing, that you put one step wrong, that even, you're mad. How are you meant to live up to this? How am I going to be the Virgin Mary? Where do you fit? You don't. So you kind of women have just been frozen. Put a label on, and pretty much we can't have a sexuality, we can't have a sexual side, and even if we don't, we're still a whore, and still have all this resentment aimed our way. because then you look, this is what I was also thinking about a lot, was the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve. Like, I don't know whether Jesus came first or that story came first. I don't, but these stories that they used, like that whole thing, I've talked about a little bit before, but the methods, these stories that they put together to really fuck with our heads, blame women and shame men, and pretty much convince you that there's no getting out of it. You're fucked and you let the woman fuck you. So what are you gonna do about it? Like, you're ruined for all eternity because of your weakness of the flesh. So pretty much the message, whatever the story in all those stories, aimed at shaming, guilt tripping, and dividing the sexes, having men blame women and women being cast out, like never good enough, like bad, wrong, especially if we wanted to have a say, have our own mind, our own needs, desires, if we had any sense of self-empowerment, thought that we were equal or whatever, so all these tactics that are used to control people and separate, and believe it or not, like I've never been that religious, right? But this kind of vibe has been instilled in society everywhere. So they did a really good job of it back in the day. Extremely well carried out. And obviously back then they got pretty violent and carried out a lot of atrocities in order to also top it off with outright fear for your life if you did not get manipulated, like if you did not take it, if you did not take it on board, like you didn't have a choice. And for generations and generations and generations, this was instilled, the fear of the fucking outcome if we stood up and say, well, I don't agree with that, or like if we had our own thoughts on the matter. So you can see over, even if you don't think about this religious stuff like at all, have a think about how it could, that the vibe of that still be impacting, it's pretty clear it's still impacting our world today. Men have been fucked over big time with the guilt and shame, never being good enough, that they're inherently bad. People have been hiding their natural urges, like especially the sensual sexual desires, but it's not just that, it's passion, it's creativity, it's that inner power, the true self-expression, and being comfortable in your true self-expression. It's the self-sovereignty, and it just popped into my head. So there's a lot of talk about royal royal bloodlines and with the star seeds and all that. You know, if you're self-sovereign, if you're a sovereign being, you're a royal. You've reached royal status. You are the king or queen of your own kingdom, queendom. So yeah, there's that. And you know, pretty much the message Jesus was teaching was self-sovereignty, and that's why it was completely that's why, you know, they ended up getting rid of him and then twisting everything that he was teaching and used him as an actual tool to manipulate the population in order to be scared shitless and guilt-ridden and shameful, so they did not become self-sovereign, because you can't control people if they are self-sovereign. And so, you know, the easiest way to control a population is through fear. And making them not trust themselves, and you know, putting the self-doubt and everything. So they used all these techniques in order to squash out self-confidence, so we did not become self-sovereign and stand up, so we would stay scared. So fear, this type of fear and manipulation is still being used. You know, it's the bottom of the barrel. It's the easiest stuff, like shock factor, fear, guilt, shame, and you know, it's the lowest of the low. Like if you wanna bully someone, if you want to try and control someone, get someone to do something, you know, there's the guilt trip, there's shame, bringing up something from the past that you know will have an emotional impact on them, in order to, you know, so they feel kind of bad. You know, this type of stuff's used everywhere. You know, people do it in relationships, you know, the toxic relationship, the manipulative people out there that use these tools. You know, a lot of people aren't even aware of it. It's just how they have become. It's the only way they know how to get what they want. But you know, that's fucked. That's not a true life. It's not true. It's not authentic. You're manipulating someone for your own agenda. You're controlling someone else's life and emotions through bully tactics and psychological warfare, which is, you know, it's abuse. It's so fucking toxic. So you know, in order to break through all this and really, because you got to see it clearly before you can like deal with the fact that it's going on, and then say no, I'm sorry, that's not going to impact me anymore, and you know, you choose something else, because you know, and the more you do that, the more you become self-empowered, then that stuff doesn't work on you anymore. Yeah. And yeah, so back to, you know, the more you do that, you have to go through this process of realizing what's still controlling you. And a lot of the time it's, you know, it's not people around you doing it, it is you doing it to yourself. And so you've got to break through these mental patterns of like shaming or guilting yourself. And so you've got to ask yourself the question, why, all right, do I actually, should I feel guilty right now? Like, or do I need to look at this feeling and, you know, why I've just had those thoughts, and how do I truly feel about that? And that's how you heal these things within inside yourself. Because yeah, you got to put up boundaries with if it's happening from other people to you, and the news media, and you know, any religious groups that you're with, or like whatever. So part of the process, the journey, is to look at where it's coming from. So you got to do the outside, but you know, the big one is the inside, because we've all been programs. You know, they talk about reparenting yourself, and it is all about, it's like on the computer, you know, and you're going through all the old files to see if you want to keep this one or delete it, keep this one or delete it, and you've got to go through kind of each file and have a look at it and see if it needs to be deleted or updated, you know, for the true version of you. And it is about cleaning up your files. But you know, and each time one of these files gets activated by something that goes on in your life, it kind of pops up, and you know, there might be like a let's just say we have a lot of gunk to do with our body image, and let's say bodily functions and bodily urges, and you know, pleasuring ourselves and all of this. Like, there's a lot of shame. We've all kind of, well, the majority of us would have a lot of shame and guilt, and you know, triggers around body image and you know, that kind of thing. So that type of thing kind of would come up every now and then in different ways, and each time one of these type of things comes up, it's like that file gets activated, and it's kind of you get triggered, and it can either send you into a spiral of emotional, you know, shame, blame, guilt, like anger, like whatever, depression, or and when it does, you kind of got to look at it from outside the box and say, well, is this really the world that I want to live in? Do I want to feel this way? Like, should I be ashamed of my body? Am I showing too much skin? What is showing too much skin? And you know, should I be ashamed of the way I dance? Should I feel guilty for wanting to go out and have a few drinks and a dance? Should I feel guilty for pleasuring myself? You know, yeah, like, seriously, I mean, how many times have we've got all this noise in our head, pretty much telling ourselves that we're bad and wrong constantly, and we've got to, each time this kind of stuff comes up, we've literally got to reprogram ourselves and put the file away, and over and over and over again we have to do this with so many different things. And you keep doing that, and you've cleaned all your files up. You know, you get to this point where it's all, everything kind of gets that much more easy and you feel more you, and then you go a bit deeper within yourself, and that's when more of these centers get activated, and more you comes out. And you know, those triggerings keep happening, you know, as you get access to more you still have to process these triggerings as you go through all this more levels of you, but you keep going, and then you know, then it's the rocket ship. Then you know, at some point you get to the core of you, and you kind of get access to these gifts and the true power of a human animal. It's, you know, an animal instinct. We have an animal instinct. We have these natural abilities, like a bird flying south for winter, whatever, these natural freaking tapped in things. All the animal kingdom has it. Look at fungi, mycelium, the trees talk to each other. We know that now. We are a part of this environment. We have it within ourselves. It is no special fucking rare thing to be psychic, to have, you know, your clairsentience type thing. That is natural animal instinct. That is your natural animal ability as an animal on this planet, to be connected to the planet and to the animals and to the trees and to fucking everything, the elements, everything, and all the rest. And this is how you do it. You become like the animal. All the animals are out there just being themselves, the animals. And we need to get back to our true animal self, our pure self, without the bullshit stories that we've been told about who we are. Like, break that all down and figure out who you are, and this animal beast mode gets turned on, and then you truly realize the capabilities of, you know, well, our capabilities, which are fucking, it's magical. And then you'll understand, coming full circle, then you'll understand why we were heavily manipulated to that extent to keep us in a fear state. That is when you truly see the, you know, the big picture, because there's, you know, we're some powerful, all-knowing creatures, connected creatures once we become self-sovereign. And there is no controlling, there's no controlling someone who is in their self-sovereignty. Like, you know, like Gandhi and that, like, you can do whatever you want to that person's body, put them in prison for forever, you know, they'll just write amazing freaking volumes of books over and over again, and you know, have a extremely lasting effect on society. Like, you can lock them up. It's not like that easy to kill people anymore like the church did in the earlier days and everything. You know, there's still a lot of murder and that going around every now and then and stuff, but you know, the only way we can change this world is if more of us become self-sovereign, and then, you know, the shit just won't fly and major changes will happen. And you want to be magic, you want superpowers, work on your self-sovereignty. Do this. It's the recipe. This is what Jesus was talking about. This is why he traveled all over the place talking to everyone, that this is what it is. You don't need to be ashamed of who you are. You don't need to feel guilty. Be the journey to true enlightenment is the journey to truly get to know yourself and love yourself. To release any fear of you being you. And yeah, that is a journey. Like, you know, if anyone's still watching this video, it hasn't been triggered to shit and turned it off, because the ego is a very powerful thing. We hold on to any semblance of control of this life if we can, you know, so we don't want to look there. But, you know, that's the secret. It's the recipe. Anyone can get to the point of being fully tapped in, like a super consciousness type, you know, Claire's online, the next level abilities and skills, knowledge coming out of the ethers. There are some extreme benefits, and also you get to be happy just to be you. I mean, life is still hard. I've talked about this over and over again. Life is still fucking hard because we're still living in a really fucked up society. But the self-sovereignty journey and helping others become self-sovereign is absolutely worth it. That is why Jesus was willing to go all the way with it. You know, it was his choice, because there is no other like option type thing. You know, when you become self-sovereign, as Jesus was, and you had all that knowledge and wisdoms, and you're surrounded by people that are just in fear and becoming ill with it, with their fear, stress, and just not wising up, because, you know, if you're in a fear state, you know, pretty much half your body is shut off, you know, from the wisdoms that you can actually access when you're in your full, you know, self. You know, and this is the journey that, you know, Buddha and, you know, all the spiritual, all the spiritual stories. And I've recently, you know, over the last couple of years, I've read through a lot. I've glossed over a lot of all the different religions and the religious kind of texts, and they're all saying the same thing. They all say the same thing. It's the journey of self-love and seeing beauty, feeling love and beauty for, you know, the smallest things to the biggest things, and don't ever stop seeking within yourself and knowledge and growing, like, yeah. So I really needed to talk about that tonight, because I could not, you know, I can't stop thinking about it. It was clearly something that needed to be said. Yeah. Oh, Isis, yeah, coming out first. Like, the whole Isis and Osiris story is another one, which is kind of, you know, exactly the same. Like Osiris putting all these pieces back together. Like, yeah, that story is like Set ripped him apart, and Isis collected the pieces, and, you know, he was put back together, and that is very much like how I was kind of saying, like, we get covered in mud, you can also say that we get ripped to shreds. We get pulled apart so far that we don't know who we are anymore. And it takes a lot to get all your parts back together and sew yourself back to become whole and reborn again, as Osiris was. So like nearly, every area of religion, so many stories relate to this exact kind of thing in all manner of different ways, which is beautiful because everyone's kind of got to do it in their own way. But basically, in order to blow your third eye, your pineal gland open, activate all your energy centers, is to be authentic self-sovereign being, self-empowered, and then your energy does the rest, and then you have massive beautiful things happen. But basically you just got to let all the shit go that's not yours and figure out who you are and become in love with yourself and who you are, and just keep seeking to be more you and enjoy your life more. And all this other stuff kind of just happens when you do that, like magic. Yeah, because you could do all the meditations and bullshit over and over again. You could do everything, every little technique that they tell you to do. If you're not looking at who you are and ridding yourself of fear, shame, guilt, if you're not doing that inner emotional work of becoming the full you, whatever you want to do, you're not going to get there. So the point of it all is to release what's not you. Don't listen to anything else, and find your inner voice, what you want to do, what you enjoy, what you love, and release all the rest until you are the majority of you. You're doing what you want to do. You're feeling good about it. You're feeling good about you, like body, mind, what you're doing each day, how you're acting, how you're behaving, you're like welded yourself, like put your pieces back together so you're solid in who you are. You speak your truth, you act your truth, you know your truth, and you live your truth. And that truth is the love of who you are and what you are doing, the passion. And and being connected. So I think feeling connection, like with environment and with people and animals, like feeling that you are a part of something bigger, that you are something bigger, that big picture soul view and the big picture timeline view, that you are a part of all this, human existence, of the earth, of the animal kingdom, of the elemental table, of source itself and everything that has come from source, that the light, you are a part of that. And your part must be important because you're a part of it and you are unique, and that uniqueness is your point. That is the point. That is why you're here. So why would you do anything else other than discover your uniqueness and fucking love it? So yeah, that's the vibe of today. And I truly wish everyone could get on that self-sovereignty journey and just keep hammering at it and until you become your superhuman self.